Hi everyone, it's Lynn Dion here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I thought I would show you how to make these adorable little Valentine cards using the new Lovable Animals stamp and die set from Art Impressions, and I'll also be showing you how to create these shimmer powder backgrounds. So let's go ahead and get started. To create my shimmer powder backgrounds, I'm going to be using my color catcher. And this is just going to catch all that extra ink and powder that we have here. And I also like to place a craft mat in here when I'm doing this as well. For paper, I'm using the Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock. And I'm going to go ahead and start with a piece of that paper, just a scrap piece here. And I'm spritzing it with some water from my Distress sprayer. The first color I'm using is the Violet Brocade, and this has a mix already built into it, and you can see that on the label, kind of a pink and purpley mix. And again, these are just powders, so I'm just shaking it onto my cardstock. Then I'm going to go ahead and spritz this again and get it nice and wet so that those colors will blend together. Now you can lift it and mix those colors a little bit, but I'm just going to continue spritzing this. Now what you do want to be careful of here, because it is a powder, you want to make sure that you tap away those little extra granules. If you leave those granules there, they will rub off when the card is dry. So again, I'm starting with a nice spray of the water. Then here I'm using the Lilac Waterfall, which again is more of a pastel mix of pinks and purples. So I'm going to shake plenty of that on. You do want to make sure that you do not squeeze these bottles. You'll get way more than you need. Less is more in this case. So you just want to shake it on. And then again, you want to spritz it really well to break up any of those little granules. And I'm going to also add a little bit of the Solar Flare to this one as well, which is kind of a yellowy gold color. Again, I'm using a wet brush to break up those little granules. And also I can use that wet brush to pick up some extra ink. The ink that kind of is on my mat, I can pick that up. You see me doing that there. Just pick that up and fill in some of those areas. Now I'm also going to add cherry balm to this. And for this one, I added way too much. So you can see that it really all turned into this pinky color. So I'm going back with my Lilac Waterfall and blending that in, and I'm going back to the Solar Flare. So the nice thing here is you can keep coming back in with these powders. So if you don't like it, just add some more powder and spritz it with water. Now for this one, I'm going to use my Blue Blitz, which is a really pretty blue color. Again, I'm spritzing that paper, get it nice and wet. Now this one you can see was a little bit clogged, so you just tap it on your table, and then you could also tap the bottom of it as well, but don't squeeze it. So now with Falling Leaves, I'm going to add that pretty mix there of those greens and just again shake this on. And this blue and green combination is really pretty, and I'm adding a little bit of the Solar Flare to this one as well. So I'm just going to make a whole bunch of backgrounds. What I like to do is just, once I have all of this out and I'm making a mess anyway, I like to just do a whole bunch of these backgrounds and just set them aside, and I can use them whenever I need to. I just keep them in with my shimmer powders. And to tell you a little bit more about these shimmer powders are by Nuvo. So Tonic Studios makes these, and these are a Nuvo product. And there are several colors. I think I have about 8 of the colors. And what I like is some of these that I've shown you have a mix of colors in them already, so you get that nice blending without having to do a lot of work. Now this blue and green combination, I'm going to set that one aside. So let's do another one here. Again, getting that paper nice and wet, going back to that Violet Brocade. Again, I'm going to shake that on. And when these shimmer powders dry, they do have a beautiful shimmer to them. So they have kind of a sparkle to them, which is hard to see when they're wet, but when they're dry, I'll show you. And you'll see that they have this beautiful sheen to them. A little bit of sparkle. So now you can see this particular one I just think blends so nicely. This combination of colors is just so pretty and really takes no effort at all. So I'm tapping a little bit more of that same one on there. And again, just breaking up those little granules with my wet brush and setting that aside to dry. So for this one, I'm using the Lilac Waterfall, again with that pretty pastel mix. And this one too has a nice combination. And if you are looking to do a really pretty sky, one layer of this works really well, I find. Just spritz it and just let it dry and it really looks like a beautiful sky. Again, I'm going to add that solar flare to this one. I wanted a couple of these, so I did this version a few different ways just to see what I would get. Adding a little bit more of that first color we used, then going to the blue Blitz and just throwing a little bit of that in there as well, just to see what I would get here. I mean, this is so much fun because you're never sure what you're going to end up with, and I think that's the fun of it, just to kind of see what combinations you might get. And again, I'm just picking up some of that extra ink from the sides there and just tapping it on. Now for the next one, I'm going to the Cherry Bomb, which again, this color is pretty strong, so you want to use it kind of sparingly. And then a little bit of the Solar Flare I'm going to mix in this one. And this is a beautiful combination right here, very vibrant. I just love how this one came out. And then I'm adding a little bit of that waterfall to this one as well. Just spritzing that. And again, breaking up those little granules. And since it was so wet, I didn't even spritz this with water. I just started breaking up that powder. I wanted to keep some of that lavender color. So I'm going to heat set all of these little panels that we created, and I wanted to give you a closer look at these. And when I turn it this way, you'll see that beautiful sheen, that shimmer that these have. There's that one we just did. And look how pretty that would be for a sky. I just think that's beautiful. We're going to be using this one and this one here for our cards today. So to add a little bit more sparkle, since there wasn't enough, I'm going to take these sparkle cardstocks. This is the spring collection from Lawn Fawn. These are these beautiful glittery papers. And I'm also going to be using that one there from the autumn sparkle cardstock collection. So I just wanted to decide here which one I want for these backgrounds. So I'm going to be using this panel, and I decided that purpley pink one is perfect for this one. And then for my blue and green combination, I'm going to grab the blue sparkle cardstock. Now I did want to show you that all of these others you could match up with the other papers here as well. That yellow is really pretty. And then that one would be pretty with the green. So kind of have fun with these, play around with these. So I'm going to grab these two here and get started. For stamps, as I mentioned before, I'm going to be using these lovable animals, and we're actually going to be using the cat and the elephant. And this is the lovable animal set that comes with coordinating dies, and you get this bonus heart die in here as well. I just love this. I was surprised when I found that die in here. I didn't realize I was getting that as well, so that was kind of a little bonus for me. Now I just want to kind of move this around to decide where I want to cut that heart out of. And then I'm going to tape that down with a little bit of purple tape. And I'll do the same thing for that other one. And I'm going to die cut 2 extras out of some white Bristol Smooth cardstock as well. Just because these papers got curled a little bit from being so wet, so I'm going to go ahead and attach those to these white panels. And that'll just keep everything nice and flat. So I'm going to die cut 2 of these as well. I'm using my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to attach these together. That'll just give me a little time to move these around and make sure they're lined up really well. So again, that's just going to give us a nice thick embellishment here. I'm going to do the same thing for this other one. So now I have these two all set. I've grabbed my mini Misty and I've placed the elephant and the kitty cat in here, and I'm going to ink these up using the VersaFine Onyx black ink. This is a permanent black ink, and I'm just rubbing that out to get a nice impression. I'm using sugared almond pink, gray, and light gray to do my coloring. I'm going to start off with that pink, putting a little in the ears and on the cheeks. And then I'm using my blender pen to blend that out. And these are water-based markers, and you could also use a water brush to do your blending here. And you want to scribble that blender pen onto scrap paper until it goes clear, and then you'll know that it's good to change colors. So once it goes clear on your paper, you can change to the next color. And I added the light gray first, then I'm adding the darker gray, and I'm just going to blend those in. Kind of want to keep that area of the ear a little bit pink in the center, so I'm just going to kind of blend up into that pink. I'm doing the same thing here for the other side, and just to define that ear a little bit more, I added a little bit of that darker gray right down the side of his head here. And then again, I'm just kind of blending into that pink color. So I'm laying down both colors at the same time, the light gray and then my dark gray, and then just pulling that in. Now you could certainly do one color at a time. You could start with your light gray, blend that out, and then add your darker gray. But I found this to work really well. I'm adding a little bit of that darker gray underneath the trunk and then just pulling that up towards the top, and then just gently blending into the cheeks a little bit here. For this little tummy area, I'm going to keep it just a little bit lighter. But then I did decide to come in with a little bit of that darker gray and just give a little shadow here. At the end, you'll see that I colored a second one of these little elephants in, and I did him a little bit darker. So you'll be able to see the difference between the two. This one I went with a little bit more of the shadowing here. And then I'll finish the rest of his body the same way, just adding all of these shadows down at the bottom and then pulling up towards the top. And then adding some shadows in where his arms kind of meet his body here. So right underneath these arms. And then I'll do a little shadowing above each of the arms and then underneath his chin here. I'm not going to bother coloring in the little bow tie because that's going to get covered. So don't worry about that. And if you have too much ink on your blender pen, you can scribble it off onto your scrap paper. And you see me doing that there. So you can always remove some ink if you get a little bit too much of the darker color. And then I'm adding that darker color just to those little areas around the feet and the hands there, those little scallopy areas. And I did the little kitty cat the exact same way. And I did that off camera. So now I can go ahead and grab the coordinating die and run this through my Sizzix Sidekick machine. And I did that same thing for the little cat as well. And this creates these little slots in the arms, which I just love because we're going to be sliding some little hearts in there. So it creates the little slots that you need to put something in there. You could put a flower, a package, the heart. There's other little items in this stamp set that you could use to place in there. So now I've got some gray cardstock here. I'm also using the square double stitch dies from Art Impressions, and I'm grabbing that largest one. I'm going to die cut both of these gray panels, and then I'm going to die cut 2 white ones as well. The cardstock, the gray cardstock I'm using is only a 65-pound weight, and I thought it was just a little thin. So I'm going to back these with the white cardstock. Now, if you have a heavier gray cardstock, then don't worry about doing this part here. If you have a 100-pound gray cardstock, I would just use that. Now I'm using my We Are Memory Keepers bone folder just to press that out. I like to use this larger bone folder to press out these large areas. So that creates a little thicker panel here. Now I'm going to grab the X and O from my Lovable Animals set, and I'm going to stamp the X and O right along the bottom and the top of these panels. So I'll start here at the bottom, and I've got the XO in place on the bottom left-hand corner of my cardstock. I'm using my Versamark ink pad, and this is an embossable ink pad that's clear. So I'm going to ink this up and stamp this all the way across. Now to make sure this is lined up perfectly, I'm going to count 3 blocks over and then put my magnets in place and stamp this again. So I'm going to keep moving this over 3 blocks at a time here until I get to the other end. And again, this is an embossable ink, so we're going to be doing some embossing here. Again, we're going to be adding a little bit more sparkle because I didn't think there was enough. So we're going to go ahead and do this right to the end here. Now I've got some Nuvo embossing powder, and this has a beautiful sparkle to it. And this is called Shimmering Pearl. So I'm going to sprinkle that on here, and I'll tap away any excess, and then I'm going to heat set this with my heat tool. Now, one thing I will tell you, when you're using embossing powders that have sparkle in it, the sparkle is made of a plastic material, so you don't want to overheat these. You want to get your heat gun nice and hot before you go to your cardstock, and that's what you see me doing there. And then once you start heating it, you just want to move quickly across your cardstock. You don't want to overheat these, because what will happen is you'll just melt that plastic and that sparkle will kind of disappear on you. So now I want to do the top of this panel, but I'm going to flip it over just to make it easier to line this up. So I've got to put my stamp upside down in order for these to turn out right side up when I do my when I look at the panel. So I'm just going to flip this around so it'll be, instead of XO, it'll be OX. I'm placing it in the exact same position as we placed the other one, the bottom left hand corner. And then you'll see OX, but when we turn it around, it'll be right side up when we finish this panel. So again, I'm going to do the same exact inking and stamping that I did before and moving it over the 3 grids. And I continued that all the way across. So once that was done, I went ahead and embossed this. So I'm the same embossing powder we used before, tapping off the excess and then heat setting it with my heat tool. I'm just putting that excess powder right back in the container, so you use very little here when you do the embossing. So again, I'm getting my heat tool nice and hot, and then I'm going to go to that embossing and just move quickly across that embossed area. And now you can see we have the XOs across the top and the bottom on both of these panels. Now to create my card, I'm going to go ahead and cut this 4 1/4 by 8 1/2, and I have those measurements listed up at the top there as well. And this will create a square card, so I'm going to go ahead and score this at 4 1/4. So this will be 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 inch card, and I'm creating a top folding card here. I'm using my bone folder just to press out the creases. So now I can go ahead and attach these panels to the front of my card. I'm using my ATG 700 tape dispenser to do that. I have a permanent tape in here, which is really strong. You could use glue here as well if you need a little more time to position that. Now I cut the sparkle cardstock, the width of the gray cardstock, and then about 2 inches wide. And that'll fit right on the center of my card here. Now I've got a couple little extra pieces of the sparkle cardstock, and I did get this little heart die from that same Lovable animal set. So you have all these little dies in here. And this is going to die cut the little heart we need that each of our little critters are going to be holding. And you'll see here that these just pop right into place. Now, I did change my mind here on this one. I decided to use the blue with the little elephant, but you can see that it just slides right in there. And that will cover the little bow tie on the elephant. And then I'm going to do the same thing here with the little cap. And these are just so cute. And like I say, there's other elements that you can tuck in here as well. Now I've got my shimmer backgrounds, and that's how the cards are going to go together here. So I'm just going to attach this. I'm going to pop this up, and I just want to make sure I put a little tape behind that heart there just to make sure it doesn't move. So I'm going to make sure I put a little chunk of the double-sided foam tape here right behind the heart. And then I'm going to go ahead and pop this up. And I'm just centering that. And then I'm also going to pop this up as well. So we're going to have plenty of dimension here on these little cards. So if you want to make a complete set of these Valentine cards, we had all those shimmering backgrounds. You could make a whole set of these for your children's friends or just as a gift set to give someone. I'm using my crystal hearts from Buttons Galore and More. These are the Sparklettes embellishments. And I'm using my Marvy jewel picker to pick these up. And these are these beautiful clear shimmering hearts. I'm using a little bit of the Nuvo Deluxe adhesive right in the center of each of these hearts. And then I'm picking those up with the Marvy jewel picker and just centering those. And that again is going to give just a little bit more sparkle. So here I'll give you a closer look at these cards. You can see that pretty shimmer we have on the X's and O's and on our background as well. And I just think these little critters are adorable. And again, you could make a whole set of these for someone. That would make a great little gift. And I'll show you one more here that I did that I mentioned to you before, where I colored the elephant in just a little bit darker. And then I used a different one of those shimmering powder backgrounds. So you can see how much fun this is just to create a whole bunch of backgrounds and a whole bunch of cards. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to visit me at pinkwhisperdesigns.com. As always, thank you so much and have a great day. Bye-bye.